all acclaim, with mascaraed eyes and lips as bright as flame. Tangerine, when she dances by, senoritas stare and caballeros sigh. And I have seen toast to Tangerine raised in every bar across the Argentine. Yes, she has them all on the run, but her heart belongs to just one. Her heart belongs to Tangerine. Tangerine, she is all they say, with mascaraed eyes and chapeau by daché. Tangerine, with her lips of flame, if the color keeps Louis Philippe's to blame. And I've seen clothes on Tangerine where the label reads for Macy's mezzanine. Yeah, she's got the boys on the run, but her heart belongs to just one. Her heart belongs to Tangerine. There's an oldie but a goodie. And the reason I was singing that is today we are going to make a tangerine cake. Very simple cake to make and very delicious. So, without further ado, oh wait a minute, there is some other ado. I received in the mail today a package from England. And this is from Digger1, who had a contest a while back, and every week for 5 weeks he asked a question, and all those who answered the question correctly were entered in a draw. And lo and behold, week 4 of his contest, or gift giveaway, I was the winner. I was shocked. I'm still shocked. So anyway, I'm not going to open this during this video because I feel this deserves a video all of its own. So after I get this cake made and clean up from this, I will be doing a special video opening this parcel from Digger1. And I will put all the information, his links and that on this video and on that video. I have not opened it, I haven't sneaked a peek. I will open it live, well not live, but on the video. Alrighty, so with that, remember it's Digger1. That's the word digger and the letter, or not the letter, the number 1. So let's get the cake baking. I'm just going to adjust the camera so you can see a little better. And here we go. Alrighty, now there's 2 ways you can do this. One is how I'm doing it, but I'm just using all-purpose flour. If you want to use self-rising flour, then you do not need to include the baking powder or salt. Basically, I'm making my own self-rising flour, there we go. So we want 2 cups of all-purpose flour. You want 3 teaspoons of baking powder. Get all 3 teaspoons here. And you want a ½ teaspoon of salt. So 2 cups of flour, 3 teaspoons of baking powder, and ½ teaspoon of salt. And we're going to take our whisk, we'll blend that all together nicely. And we have just now created self-rising flour. So just remember that in the future, if you have a recipe that calls for self-rising flour, it is 1½ teaspoons of baking powder per cup of flour and a quarter teaspoon of salt per cup of flour. And that makes self-rising flour. So that's what we've just done. But we had 2 cups of flour, so we used 3 teaspoons of baking powder and a ½ teaspoon of salt. And we've got that all worked together. And that's it for our dry ingredients. No, it isn't either. I take that back because, believe it or not, this is a very sweet cake. It takes 2 cups of sugar, or you can use 2 cups of Splenda, whichever your preference is. So that's a lot of sugar for a cake. So this is definitely a sweet, sweet cake. Now I've done a few things ahead of time just to prep. Okay, once we got this all mixed together well, which we do now, we're going to go to our wet ingredients. First of our wet ingredients is 2 eggs beaten. Now you can do this in a Mixmaster or in a food processor, in which case you don't need to pre-beat the eggs. I'm doing it by hand because, well, as you know from my future videos, as you know from watching my future videos that I haven't put out yet, I'm a little off today, aren't I? If you've watched any of my previous videos, you'll know that I tend to do things by hand. Then we want a 1/2 cup of canola oil. So that was 2 eggs beaten. Now we have a 1/2 cup of canola oil. I don't recommend using any other kind. It would definitely have a probably not favorable effect on the cake. You could use just a vegetable oil if you don't have canola oil, but I certainly would not use olive oil or sesame seed oil or anything like that. And our final ingredient, believe it or not, is tangerines. You want 2 tangerines pulped. Now this is, if you do this in a food processor, you can start by pulping your tangerines. So I've already pulped our tangerines. If you're in a bind and cannot find tangerines, you could substitute mandarins. You would want basically 1/2 cup of pulped mandarins. But this is actually called Tangerine Cake, so I'm going to go with tangerines. There we go. And believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, and children of all ages, that is all of the ingredients. And now we just need to blend that all together. So we just start stirring. Now you can see where this would be faster in a food processor. There you would add your wet ingredients first. You just do the reverse of what I've done. So, except if you're using the multi-purpose flour, baking powder, and salt, and you would want to mix those together before adding it to the wet ingredients in the food processor. So yeah, I would highly recommend, if you're using a food processor, that you do this in reverse. Pulp your tangerines, add your eggs and your oil, add your sugar, and then your either self-rising flour or your multi-purpose flour, baking powder, and other ingredients. So I'm kind of my own Mixmaster and food processor. I have a food processor and I have a Mixmaster. But I very seldom use either one. I do use them on occasion. I'm glad I have them. But I just find this is easier than dragging all that equipment out. And it gets the job done just as well. And I don't have big clouds of flour puffing up into the air, making a mess. Okay, it's ready to go. So the next thing we want, I forgot to tell you what to do ahead of time. So before you start, you can preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit and grease a 9x9 cake sheet, or cake tin. And we put our batter into the pie tin. You could use a 9x13, it just means your cake will be a little thinner. But if you want a big tall cake, then you're better off with this size pan. I guess it depends how many people you want to feed, whether you're on a diet, etc., etc. Of course, even on a diet, if you do that 9 by 13, you can always cut the pieces bigger, right? Of course, you're not supposed to get it all over the outside like I just have done. All right. You saw me stick my finger in my mouth, so I had to wash my hands. I always emphasize washing your hands. So that's all. It should always be #1 ingredient on any recipe. Before starting, wash your hands. Borrow this back for a minute. Let's get this down off the edge so it doesn't burn on. All right, my oven's ready. The cake is ready to go in. Let's try and make sure it's even there. So there it is, ready to go in the oven. In she goes. We're going to set the timer for 20 minutes. And there we are. We're off to the races. So we'll be back in 20 minutes when we take it out of the oven and see how she turns out. Again, as I say, this is a simple recipe. As always, the ingredients are on the screen as I go, but if you would like a printable copy, you can email me at y_gath_62, that's the number 62, at yahoo.com. I always have my email and snail mail address in the description and in the About section on my channel. So if you would like to write me a letter, send me a postcard, anything like that, by all means feel free to send me snail mail. If you would like a printable copy of the recipe, then by all means send me an email and request that, and I'd be happy to send it to you. All right, let's take a break, and we'll be back when the cake is done. Tangerine, she is all they claim, with mascaraed eyes and lips as bright as flame. Tangerine, as she dances by, senoritas stare and caballeros sigh, and I've seen toast to Tangerine raised in every bar across the Argentine. Yeah, she's got them all on the run, but her heart belongs to just one. Her heart belongs to Tangerine. Well, hopefully our tangerine cake is turning out, but I think this is going to be one of those occasions when you do your best and it doesn't work out the way it should. Usually this cake is nicely domed in the middle, but what I'm seeing in the oven looks a little more like a flat cake. So we'll have to wait here and see. Within seconds, let's just have a look. And we're out clean. So we'll turn that off. And I forgot to get my pot holders out. That wasn't very clever. Now I will tell you that, as you can see, this is concave in the middle. It should be domed. So this is what I would call a fail. Although I'm sure it'll taste quite good. And I think the last time I made this, I did it in a 9 by 13 pan, which would make it cook more quickly. I had to add an extra 15 minutes, so while the recipe calls for 20 minutes, this actually took 35. But it's cooked, and I would rather it have been domed in the middle, but this is the way it turned out. So sometimes, even the best of us, well, I don't know if I'm the best, but even the middle ranking of us don't have things turn out the way we'd hope. So that's the recipe for this week, tangerine cake. Hope you'll give it a try and you're more successful than I was. Perhaps use a 9 by 13 pan rather than a 9 by 9. So until later when I do the the opening of my gift package from Digger 1, I will say goodbye, God bless, and take care.